And we're back with an episode of the Youth Ministry Booster Podcast, hanging out in the garage. You told me to bring it in hot. Hey, I'm Zach Workin, hanging out with my best friend Chad Higgins in the garage, talking about... Stole my line, sorry. Hi, I'm Zach Workin.
And I'm Chad Higgins.
So we're hanging out in the garage today. We're talking about all things youth ministry eventually, but I've been told to give a little preface, a little spoiler warning. We're coming in a little hot today.
We're wired.
We're wired up. I don't have coffee in front of me because I've already drank all of my coffee and my pre-workout from this morning. So we're a little heated, had a little bit of a thing with the 6-year-old before we got to school today. So anyway, fired up, ready to go. Chad Higgins, how are you today?
Good. Okay, hold on. You can't just like brush by. I had a little thing with a 6-year-old. Could have been like you were in a street fight with a 6-year-old.
That's right. Yeah. Put that kiddo in the hospital. Got
your
it.
6-year-old?
Yeah. Yours, mine, all of ours. Could be anybody. No, it was mine. No, it's fine. So relevant to a conversation later today, our 6-year-old has gotten really proactive. Like they do the like Stephen Covey like habits of a leader at school. They have like the 8 things.
Wow.
It's do listen like this. They get after it. And so like one of them is be proactive, and he kind of has named that, and he really has been doing that. Like I don't know what your 6-year-olds are like at home, but for mine, like he's like up early. He was up like at 6 something this morning, picked out his own clothes, got dressed, like brushed his hair, put his plate by the sink, and was ready to go. So much so that he went and like hid in the car in the garage for us to find him, which he's done before, but never like 20 minutes too soon. Like he's just out here in the garage, just hiding. And I was like, okay, but he forgot to put his socks on. So like there was no socks laid out. He didn't put his socks on. So I'm like going around the house trying to find him. I'm like, Gideon, like hollering, come out of the garage, and it's like building to a crescendo. Like, Gideon! He's in the car and he's like, ah! And so he was trying to surprise me, but I scared him.
Because you're like yelling.
Because I'm hollering for him and he didn't know that I was looking for him.
Now,
and so then we had a whole meltdown. I'm like, I was just trying to surprise you. It was amazing. It was, yeah. So anyway,
now
sorry to my kiddo.
We're going to back up for a moment.
Okay.
Because you told me a part of that story earlier.
Okay.
That you did not share.
Oh, did I leave a detail out?
You talked about he had forgotten to put on socks.
Yeah.
But there was a specific like to that. You want to share a little bit about this rule?
So our boys are basically like little teenagers.
Yes.
And so they've got cool sneakers and they love Crocs.
Crocs.
So when we have gym day at school, we have to wear sneakers.
Okay.
But whenever we have rotating specials, art, music, gym.
Yeah.
Whenever it's art or music day, they can wear Crocs. But we always wear, at school at least, Crocs and Socks. We can't go Crocs, no socks.
Is that a working rule or is that a school rule?
It's a working rule at least. I don't know if it's a school rule or not. Probably our school, you probably can go barefoot for all they care.
So I need to know from our listeners, if you were to wear Crocs.
Yeah.
And some may, okay. I need to know, are you a
Crocs and Socks?
Crocs and Socks? Or are you no socks in the Crocs?
Oh, well. So now I will say, like on the weekends when we're hanging and we're just going to like the store or whatever, we can go Crocs and no socks.
Yeah.
My fear is at school, they're going to like get their like shoes muddy. And then I got my kid just walking around, they go to the bathroom just barefooted. And I don't know about you, but elementary school bathroom barefooted, like that's how you get the athlete's foot. Like that's it. I don't know how you get athlete's foot, but I'm pretty sure that's how you get the athlete's
no
foot.
offense, but I don't think a single ply Nike sock it's really the great barrier that you think it is.
You don't know my air cushioning. Yeah. there's a real membrane there. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, we go Crocs and Socks at school.
I love it.
Crocs and Socks.
I love
it. Yeah. So
Crocs and Socks. Dude, Crocs and Socks sounds like maybe one of the better band names that I've ever heard.
Especially if the album art is crocodiles wearing stockings. Yeah, Crocs in socks. Like that is...
It also sounds like a Dr. Seuss book.
It probably... We should write that. That's our kid's book, Crocs and Socks, coming to you. It's about the importance of foot hygiene. That's Crocs and Socks.
It also is interesting that an animal known for being boots would be wearing socks.
It's like wearing socks outside your boots, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, but then what if that didn't, because
Oh, wait, hold on,
just
dude.
keep the foot soft.
Let's talk about this. If you ever in the wild, okay?
Sock Crocs and Socks.
No, hold
Oh,
on.
okay.
You're at a Walgreens and you roll across a dude in boots with socks over the top of those, you need to run for your life. Okay? Like somebody.
That guy's got dastardly plans.
Yeah, 100%. Like,
he's got evil intent. Yeah.
yeah, he is broken out of a hospital somewhere.
So Crocs and Socks. So if you, youth ministry leader, love your Crocs, because we know that a lot of youth ministers, basically it's like they dress it down for Crocs and they dress it up for Hey Dudes. By the way, did you know that they're owned by the same company?
My wife has been trying to get me to buy Hey Dudes.
Don't do it. You're
for
not
a
ready.
minute.
You're not ready. You're not ready.
She's like, they're so comfortable, and there are going to be people that unsubscribe because
Right. That's
of
okay.
what I'm about
That's
to
okay.
say, but I just can't do it.
We want true fans. Yeah.
I'm not ready for the Hey Dudes.
Well, I feel the problem with the Hey Dudes is once you start wearing Hey Dudes, you don't wear any other shoes, and I feel like part of footwear is right shoes, right occasion. And I feel like if you're like, Hey Dudes, I've got my dress Hey Dudes, and I've got my like athleisure Hey Dudes, I don't know. That's too much soft-soled comfort.
If I'm going to get into Hey Dudes, I'm going to go Sperry.
Well, but that's what they've got, the ones that look like Sperry's. They've got the Hey Dudes.
Have you ever worn Sperry's?
Hey Dude boat shoes.
You ever worn Sperry's?
No, I haven't.
Bro, you want a good shoe.
Is that a comfy shoe?
Get a Sperry. This episode of Youth Ministry Booster brought to you by Sperry.
Boat shoes for the youth minister who doesn't own a boat yet. I don't know. I do like the idea that they're boat shoes, and I've never, being in Oklahoma.
They seem like the worst boat shoe imaginable.
Worst boat shoe imaginable, but also in Oklahoma, like, we're not around enough places where it's like, well, yeah, he clearly got off a boat, right?
Right.
Like I mean, Sperry's in Target or at Olive Garden, I don't know.
Why are those boat shoes?
I don't know. Sailors love them.
The little tassels on the top cannot help me
Little
sail.
topsiders. Well, you kick them off, I guess, right? Like nails out. Yeah,
I want those 5-finger, you know what I mean?
grip down.
Those
yeah,
seem like
yeah,
a good
yeah.
boat
That
shoe.
Probably is a good boat shoe. I mean, but Hey Dude, they float.
All right, so what are we
lake shoe?
What are we talking about today?
Well, so we're coming up on an important anniversary. We are almost 8 years into this journey together. When this one comes out, we will be in the month October of when we started doing this 8 years ago. And so you wanted to make the comment. We have some studio changes that are happening the next month. We got some chairs that are new-ish. They came from the dining room. Sorry, Karen.
They are new chairs out here. Which I'm thankful for, because if you've been watching the last couple of weeks, Zach tried to pull a smooth one over on me and has had his chair much higher than mine. Yeah. And now we're roughly the same height.
A little eye to eye. Because actually, we are about the same height in real life. Like,
yeah, you're probably a little taller than I am.
We're roughly the same build. Yeah. So people always ask, they're like, "You're taller than I thought you would be," and I say, "Well, because I'm on video, I'm always seated." That's just how it plays. But in our 8th year, we want to reflect just a little bit of self-indulgence, and then we'll get into our topic of today. Our very first conference. So it's conference season. We just finished the Essentials runs. We have Etch coming up, Texas Conclave. Do you remember the very first time that we went to Texas for a conference?
Yes. So we went
and brought chairs.
we went to our very first conference ever in Texas. Now, this is back when Zach and I. This is before we even started Youth Ministry Booster.
It was after 9.
Yeah. So we had
podcast only.
This podcast was originally called After 9 Podcast because the whole theme of it. We were youth pastors at the time, and we wanted to create a podcast that youth pastors could listen to right after a Wednesday night.
Yep.
Most of them about 9 o'clock.
Yep.
And it was those feelings of the after 9 feelings, right? Like whether you wanted to like eat your feelings away because it was a horrible night, or you felt like, chalupa spike in the Taco Bell parking lot because it was so good.
Felt great. Felt terrible. One of the things that we had heard is that like the hour of, call it 9 o'clock, was like the most like swingy hour for a youth ministry, either top of the world or bottom of the barrel. So we strategically released episodes Wednesdays
Yeah,
evenings
at 9:00.
as someone to listen to help be an encouraging, maybe humorous or guiding voice, whether you had a good week or a bad week. And so that was kind of.
And so we went to this conference. Now back then, here's just the reality and the truth. Like you and I funded everything by ourselves, for a while, and
funded by youth pastors for youth pastors.
It was just us.
It was just us.
It was our money.
Yeah.
And so
we just turned into that Taco Bell money into a podcast. That's actually where it all came from.
So to do a booth, like we had to put in our own money and get a booth, but like we didn't have a budget. No, we did. We bought like a little pop-up banner, but we took like your chairs right out of your house.
No, it was your chairs, my table. It was the chairs out of your office. Because they were kind of like orange and white-ish, which was like kind of the color palette of the podcast. And so I had like a little table set up so we could do live podcast because those are fun.
I stole the fruit bowl off of our kitchen table.
Yeah. Put mints and gummy bears in it.
That was the other thing. We didn't have any actual swag. And instead of getting like closed wrap candy, the worst idea ever. Like we get an F 100% of the time.
Yeah, we should have given them socks to scoop it.
We had a 5-pound bag of gummy bears. Like who's just walking by a booth going, you know what? I want these loose gummy bears.
Yeah, well, they did. They did. Most of that bag was pretty slobbery by the end, but they did. So thank you, youth pastors, for if anybody still has any lingering symptoms, that's probably where some version of the flu came from. But
that's where COVID started.
I don't know if we could say that, but. It was a lot of fun because it was all shoestringed, and we were lined up with other folks. I think the end of the hall that we were on was a lot of shoestring people.
It was so good.
But we drove down to Dallas, Fort Worth area, made it happen because that was the big thing. Is like we had our friends in Oklahoma, but we wanted to go make new connections, and so the way you did that was you posted things online and you went to conferences, and so we did.
That's so good. Yeah. I remember we could only afford one night of a hotel,
right?
So we got up really early.
Stupid early, probably too early.
Yeah,
and then
those were fun times.
It was good times. But that was 8 years ago, and again, the questions that we were asking were questions that we thought were maybe the questions not being asked. I want to bring us back to it this month because I think sometimes youth ministry can often stray into territories of tell me how to do it.
Yeah.
Let's get it done. And I get it, like proficiency, competency, these are concerns.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, the heart of it, I mean, what's what we're spending the next 60 days inside of the Booster community talking about is the spiritual health questions. Yeah. And I think the stress point is it's the questions. Like, what are the things that we're actually asking? Because when you ask the wrong things, you get the wrong answers. So one of the most important things you can do is to ask the right questions. So
if you're a Youth Ministry Booster member, you know that over the next 60 days, our focus is on
spiritual health.
If you're not a Youth Ministry Booster member, one of the different things that we're doing this year is we're breaking everything up into these 60-day goals that everybody makes for themselves.
Instead of 10 1-month kind of themes, it's 5 60-day challenges, which works out to be the same 300 days of the year.
And so over and we're kind of in the middle of it by the time this episode comes out.
Yeah.
But everybody has their own 60-day spiritual health goal that they're going to be checking on inside of their mastermind group and challenging and encourage each other. But yeah, you're exactly right. Discernment is unbelievably important in that process of knowing what to ask.
Yeah.
And I see this a lot, and I know that I was guilty of it along the way too. It's like you feel like if I just know the next like tip or trick, like I can figure out like how to do this student ministry thing better.
Yeah.
But I think wisdom and discernment allows us to know, one, like where we are, where our students are, and like how to navigate oftentimes the difference between just like good or maintaining and like leading your student ministry.
Well, and I think the leading part is the tension, I think for some of us, leading means I'm going to drag, right? I'm going to pull the sled, like a horse in front of a cart. I'm going to lead this where we're going. But sometimes that has us eyes down on just like, what can I do and what can I get done? Like, willpower is not the energy that should be driving your ministry. Like, it should not be like, let's just make it happen. I get it. There's like a day where we're like, we got to get these things painted before tomorrow or whatever. But if the primary engine for your ministry is just like the brute force of your energy and exertion, what do you do when it runs out? Because it inevitably will run out. And so I think one of the things that I would want to ask differently is, how is your leadership team, or you as a leader, discerning the work and the will of what God has for your ministry? That's slower. It's more prayerful. I think it accesses a lot more capacity than just what I can do, because we're listening for what God is doing in the lives of our folks and guiding us to do. But there is a concern that I have that in ministry right now, a lot of folks are planning it all out, right? Like, it's all like, well, here's what I think we ought to do. And so it becomes the shape of it is the shape that they plan, the shape that it takes. And I'm nervous that that's making us spiritually unhealthy in ways that we will have to reckon with later. If it's a ministry built on our desire, our plan, and the old adage of like, plan first and then ask God to bless later, is popping up in ways, because I do think there is an anxiousness that we feel and a response to the anxiousness that our students are feeling. And I think we have to zig when they zag, and we have to be more prayerful and discerning instead of feeling more hurried or rushed or dogmatic in our programs or whatever.
It's so interesting, because I think of scriptural stories like Gideon, right? Yeah. Like these moments where I think sometimes, like, in our own leadership, we're not thoughtful of like really seeking the Lord first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I know sometimes, like, in my unhealthiness, I'll search for like the next best idea on like a Facebook group, or even in like a good leadership book. You know what I mean? And I think that those are helpful, right?
Yeah.
I think those are helpful along the way, but I can retroactively look back at leadership moments of my life of unhealthiness, and they started from that place instead of allowing those to be like ingredients that came after, like seeking God and those kind of things. So, scenario here for you.
Yeah, give me a scenario. Yeah.
You get to sit down with a listener. You do this really well, right? You get to get coffee with them.
Yeah.
And it's youth pastor who's walking in feeling overwhelmed, a lot going on, all of these things, right? What advice, as far as like discernment and wisdom, would you begin to give them as they like maybe even feel stuck right now in the moment, but want to get unstuck?
It's the question that we often ask each other. That's just a rewording, a retooling. Instead of saying things like, "Man, what do you have planned next?" Tell me a story about what God's doing in your ministry.
Yeah.
I think youth ministers get really excited about their latest like shirt, event, or thing, because if the thing that happened before didn't go well, maybe the next one will, right? We're very future oriented that way. And so I think asking for, tell me a story of something that's happening that's really great in your ministry, a parent, a student, a family, a leader that maybe got to see something really cool happen. Like, tell me. And if they don't have access to a story from the last few months or the year, then that's a good check engine light.
Okay.
If your best stories from a couple years ago, 3 years ago at camp, so good. But if the last few weeks you haven't been attentive enough to see what God is up to, or shepherding enough to see what maybe that means, those are the two things that like I think can be. Those are my dirty car check engine lights. Okay. We talked before about like you're feeling disorganized. You can check a person's car and know how he's feeling about his work. if I haven't been moving at a pace, a click enough where I can like have actual stories about like, if there was no space in the week to meet with someone for coffee, to listen intently enough when I was with them and not just imagining my next meeting or thing, then I'm not in the right place.
Right.
I'm not in a discerning mode.
Yes.
I'm in a doing mode. And there's work to do, surely. But if you don't have enough time in the week to discern, like, Brian was sharing this, or Tim was telling me the other day, like, and not just reporting what they said, but like listening for how they were talking about it. Like those things really matter. And that's, I think, actually one of the skills that ministers can really hone is listening for what folks are saying with the words they have. People will not always tell you directly, but why did he call and want to meet this week? You've been kind of blowing him off, but he really wanted to meet. Something's going on. Discern that. Man, like, this kid hasn't been around for a few weeks. We could send a note. We could make a call. Something's going on. Tyler never misses. What's going on? And now noticing enough to know not just like the attendance report showed something, but that metric, that number is feeding your pastoral heart to shepherd and discern what is up.
Yeah. You use the word pastoral heart, and I think that that's really important in this. I'm a big word guy.
Yeah,
I think
words matter.
I think words
matter.
are really important for not only like title's not what I'm talking about here. I think sometimes the words that we use about ourselves in the work helps us understand and shape and remind us of the priorities of our work. I think if we just refer to ourselves as like a leader, you know what I mean, or a communicator, which is the thing that I hate the most. Like, what are you communicating?
We'll save that one for next time.
I think it is important for us to remember, like, we're called to shepherd, and those kind of like older phrases and words have these like imageries tied to them that I think are really, really helpful. Like this idea, like every time I hear shepherd, like I think of that like
so differently.
David view of this boy sitting on, a hillside, like overseeing these sheep. And it's just like,
there's no celebrity in shepherding.
There's not.
There's celebrity pastors. There are no celebrity shepherds.
Right. There's this attentiveness, right? There's this like watchfulness. There's this care of knowing like the goods and the bad of like, this sheep will surely wander, right? This one's always a good one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that kind of understanding of the flock that I think is really, really important and healthy and good. But I also think it puts it in mindset of like our priorities, right? Of like, there's a different skill set that has to be nurtured and grown to be a good shepherd over being a really hype communicator. And I think
there's no hack.
No.
There's hacks for hype. There's no hacks for care.
There's a steadfastness that we have to find in our own self of like realizing that if we're going to shepherd and care for students to be more mindful of what God is doing in their life, like we have to be adults who are mindful of what God is doing in their own life.
Yeah.
That we would be diligent in prayer and diligent in his word and diligent in serving, and these things that we're called to that at our very core are the process of us dying to ourself that he may live through us. And we don't get that from the next best blog article.
Right.
Like you get that from being in the presence of God.
Yeah.
And I think for us, our encouragement today is, if you're watching or listening, the frustration that we often find in our ministry and where it's at can stem back to the reality of where we are in our own spiritual health.
Yeah.
Not always, but a lot of times.
It's the thing we remind you the most. If we could make one plea weekly, is that before anything else of the day piles up, would you spend time, presence with a shepherd, learning how to shepherd, with a chance to refill your pastor heart, to renew your pastoral call, and before the next thing you're going to plan, communicate, or program, would you be someone who's discerning with the question, Lord, what do you have for me and these today?